Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to our first session after the summer and our 14 in general. So um, we for this session we prepared for you some updates because it's been a while since our last session. And of course, while we didn't have sessions, Microsoft Cloud Services continues to develop, and of course, you can expect a lot of new updates in all of the 4 areas which we usually covering. And that's the reason why we decided to not have specific topic, but focus on actually all the different updates pop up in this I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months time frame. Yeah, I think
Since June.
Yeah, so 4 months at least time frame. As usual, we will start with quick introduction. Then we'll have the we'll discuss the updates. For some of the updates, we may go in a bit details, and of course, at the end, we'll have question and answer session. So we'll be more than happy to have discussions with you to hear your point of view. Would you like these services? Do you think that they can help you in the in your day-to-day activities? So my name is Nikolai Markov. I've been in the IT field for 20 years. My main focus is cloud technologies and helping large organizations adopt the cloud the right way. I also have experience in the cloud governance, security, and also the artificial intelligence. And most important thing, we love what we're doing.
Okay. I think we have some new people joining today, so it's good to I can introduce myself as well. So my name is Nikolai Panchev, and I've been working a lot on the M365 and Azure for the last decade or so, and previously I was a system engineer, more than 15 years now. So both of us have a lot of technical experience working with the Microsoft Cloud Services and Microsoft products overall. And yeah, we will guide you through some of the updates that we found meaningful over the summer.
So starting with the updates from Azure side, there's some updates related to Azure SQL. We have it is in preview. We also have in preview one new service called Azure API Center. We also have one good functionality for App Gateway. We also have the very good functionality for app configuration, which is one of my favorite services. There's finally is generally available Azure Container App Jobs, which we'll see it here. They have extremely good use case. It's like it will become like a standard for self-hosted agents. We have some interesting addition in terms of vertical pod auto-scaling for Azure Kubernetes services. And finally, we have the Azure Update Manager is generally available.
On the M365 front, there were some significant updates for AI, but we purposely omitted them from this presentation because we have another group that we specifically target AI developments when it comes to Microsoft, and not only Microsoft, but this is where we currently excel at. So we'll probably provide the more meaningful AI updates there. What I found interesting was the newly announced multi-tenant organizations in M365 and Azure underneath, of course. The new Teams client, which is something that I think will have a lot of it will be beneficial for a lot of people, especially working in multiple accounts or having access to multiple tenants. And another one, which is sort of a minor update, but it's still worth mentioning, is the town halls in Microsoft Teams, which replace live events. As far as the Power Platform, we did squeeze something for AI here with the Power Virtual Agents and its integration with Azure OpenAI. Next one is automatic testing for PVA, something that some of the people on the call would probably be interested to hear more about. And I also found this, didn't find too much information in it, but it seems interesting when it comes to managing these sort of solutions for the Power Platform. Is the integration with App Insights in Azure is a more meaningful way to monitor the workloads and capture this outside of what the Power Platform provides as a standard functionality.
In terms of Microsoft security, I guess most of you are aware of a big change of branding. So the identity services, the majority of Microsoft identity services are moving from Azure AD to Microsoft Entra. So we'll cover a bit what would be the impact from this. And also we'll discuss on a high level why Microsoft are doing this. Also, there is some updates, not some, but a lot of updates related to Microsoft Defender for Cloud. One of them is data security dashboard. It's in preview, but you can already have a look at it in the Defender for Cloud. Also, there's new functionality in terms of platform as a service databases, so we can discover sensitive data again with Microsoft Defender for Cloud. There's also malware scanning functionality in Defender for Storage, which finally is generally available. And there is new addition again to Microsoft Defender for Cloud Security Posture Manager, as they have the capability to cover GCP services. So in terms of Microsoft Defender for Cloud, it's developing pretty rapidly. I would say at the moment, a lot of things are changing there. So we decided to hold a bit our specific session to the different Microsoft Defender services, just to make sure that everything is more aligned and finalized. Because during the last 6 months, I guess after the Azure OpenAI initiatives, this is the second things which change mostly in multiple ways and naming, covering things. So yeah, we'll try to catch up with all of these changes. And okay, so let's move forward. So we have a pretty good surprise, I would say, but now you can, let's say, play with Azure SQL databases for free without limiting the performance. So Microsoft introduced this offering for brand new Azure SQL instances. So you can't use it for the already created one, but you can create this free tier and you have 100,000 vCore seconds and up to 32 gigabytes for your databases. So I would say that this is pretty good for even medium-size solutions. And also it's very good for sandboxes, development environment. So as you see on the screenshot, we have some limitation, but the default behavior is that once you reach these credits, and actually you consume these seconds, your database would be paused until the next month. The other option is just to take the advantages and each month use these credits and then continue paying. So this can be even good fit for SNIKI set for development and R&D purposes. Important thing here is that you have one per subscription, so you can't have multiple database per subscription. But still, I guess it could be a good option for even for Visual Studio subscriptions or whatever, where each developer can have their own database up and running or similar stuff.
Yeah.
The important thing is that there's some limitations. So you can have maximum of 4 vCores, which again, it's pretty enough, I would say. This is not suitable at all for production usage, even if you decided to continue using database and paying after this credit, because there's some limitation in long-term backups and point-in-time restore rotation. It's limited just to 7 days. Also, the backup storage is locally redundant only. The good thing is that each month this would be the counter will reset and you'll continue to receive this. One important thing also is that you can't revert the auto-pause database to the other option. So once you choose this, you can switch it until the next month. Keep in mind that there's some other limitations which really doesn't make this solution for production use. Like it can be part of Elastic Pool, doesn't support Elastic Jobs, it doesn't support DNS alias, and you can, I would say, the biggest limitation for more advanced clients is it can be created only through the Azure portal. I guess this would be resolved pretty quickly because this is very recent update. So I guess in the next month, maximum, this should be fixed. Of course, it's not capable of auto failover groups and any of these more production / enterprise functions.
I can see a lot of potential for developers, especially when the Power Platform, because they're usually looking for the kind of the free solutions when it comes to the database. So a lot of the new people that get into the Power Platform development use SharePoint as a backend, and they don't purposely use Azure SQL because that entails you having a subscription and you have to pay for something that you're not sure how you're going to use. So that's a good way to probe and test out the performance versus let's say a SharePoint backend. So I think this is a good option for people who want to explore the use of Azure SQL databases, but necessarily have the overhead of managing it, deploying it, and this would be, like you said, the Visual Studio subscription would be a good place to roll out something like this.
Yeah, because they are per user and everybody will have.
Even with AI, Azure OpenAI, you have a number of POCs where you can test out the import of and the scanning of databases, indexing databases. So this would be another good way to test out things.
This could be one of the reasons they brought the offer.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Azure SQL is fairly expensive as a service. It needs to make sense, and that's why I'm trying to get some usage out of it.
Yep. So moving on, Azure API Center. It's part of Azure API Management Platform, and as you may guess, it's helpful to have a good track of all of your API centrally, so you can have better governance, reuse of them. And I don't. In my point of view, it's take too long for people to adopt API management solution and expose their application through the APIs. With Nikki, we had multiple times this discussion that it's not an easy process, but definitely this is very powerful and beneficial solution for all kind of application, even the new, the old one, whatever. So this Azure API Center is very good addition for lowering the, let's say, onboarding to this, if I can say, of application consolidation strategy and management strategy. So with the good thing is that actually Azure API is really central hub, which does not support only Azure environment, but all kind of APIs. So it could be your hosted APIs, on-prem APIs, on-prem application APIs from other clouds, platform, whatever. They can be of any types, like REST, GraphQL, gRPC. There are also good things that they support is that, as not sure if you see on the screen, but you have the environments option here. So you can have all the different life cycle stages based on your environment, like development, QA, production, whatever. As we said, if you see it here, it's not showed here, but they support all the different location, as we mentioned. You have some good info here, so you can put the versioning of your API, some specification, the deployment environments. As we mentioned, there's also some metadata properties which you can have. So you can specify a lot of information, and the good thing is that the API Center is compatible with JSON and YAML schema specification. So this allow the dev team and the dev tool to have better automated pipelines. And of course, you can segregate the access via workspaces. So I would say it's pretty easy to use, not complex. And at the end, the best thing is during the preview is free of charge. So if you're already using KPM, I guess it would be good to give it a try.
I wonder how much of a burden is this to keep updated, because if it's outside of APM and you have to manually manage all these connections, I think they will have to put some effort into doing the life cycle and the organization and trying to automate this process. Most organizations, I think, at least 50% maybe, don't even know what APIs they have across the different applications and all the services. So this is some potential that needs to be for a product. There are plenty of products that do this, but it's not really the process behind it is difficult. How do you keep this updated? I think APM is a wonderful platform. It's great. I've been testing it out with Azure OpenAI, and it's a great way to kind of manage all of these connections. But right now, it's great mostly for Microsoft services. When you get out of that Microsoft realm, it's a bit different.
So maybe this is a step in the
I think it is, but we'll see how it works.
This was something which we've been waiting a long time. So recently, I guess some of you are aware, but there were a lot of DDoS attacks in Europe, especially. So this is a hot topic. What of the offerings from the public clouds in terms of DDoS protection from both AWS and Azure were, let's say, challenged. And having this functionality pop up, it's coming, I would say, pretty much on time to help, let's say, bring additional measure to secure our applications. So with rate limit feature, we can detect and block the abnormal high level of traffic, which could be DDoS attack. But the other use case is actually it could be also some misconfigured clients. We know that the majority of organizations are integrating their solution with other systems, and sometimes, let's say, they're too noisy. I can say that way. So this can also help handling that kind of challenge. Important thing here is that it supports only the latest WAF engine, so you have to be sure that you're using the CRS 3.2 rule set as default in order to make sure that you're using it. And another option, another use case for this is to control the traffic rates from specific regions. So this could be because you don't have any, let's say, interest in specific region. You can really limit the requests from this region or cloud or global location, because at the end, all of this is consuming some of your compute, and it doesn't make sense if your focus is only, let's say, to some kind of Europe or to US to allow people from the globe to have the same level of experience with your application. Definitely a good solution. We already, in one of our projects, we already implemented it. So there's a lot of details on the implementation, but in general, it's pretty easy to use, and I would say it's matching our expectation. Keep in mind that you should not treat it as so, for example, when you put a specific amount of requests that limit, you will have exactly this amount. So it could differ a bit. So really just treat this more or less mitigating solution, not some specific solution which is designed to optimize your application usage. It's more to mitigate mainly these three use cases which we showed here.
Remember one of the last sessions we had a free tier of DDoS that was announced. So I think they're making a lot of these services more available to not just to the enterprise clients who can afford them, but they want to make sure that other smaller companies can leverage this, because it's important, right?
Yeah. We have a project. I'll be happy soon to share some information where we plan to have these alerts, DDoS alerts. We have DDoS standard within this client, and we plan to have alerts and which not only notify the users, but also open a support request directly with Microsoft. But yeah, definitely good stuff. They're trying. There's, as I said, recently we had a lot of use cases of DDoS attacks, especially in Europe. As mentioned earlier, HRAP config, really great service. Highly recommended everywhere where applicable. This is for people which are not aware. This is a central store of your configuration, application configuration. So you don't have to use your app to store the configuration in your PaaS service, like in Azure App Services configuration or within files in your code. This is a really powerful service which provides a lot of functionalities like feature flag. It can cover all of your environments. It can update the configuration dynamically combined with some other services. So and it's extremely cheap. It's integrated with the VNet, so it's secure, enterprise grade services, and of course it supports high availability, so you can create two of them and in different regions, and have the other one is redundant. In this current announcement, it's actually it's provide the ability to have a snapshot of all of our current configuration. This really helped us to have control rollout. So this will that when developer using this snapshot, they can be confident and that the configuration remains unchanged, and release progress through different phases on the rollout. So as I mentioned, all of these configuration could be changed, and with these snapshots we have the exact each of these configuration settings, which in some cases I've seen that they could reach very large numbers, especially for the different environments. So definitely very helpful. Of course, was known good configuration in case of something broke or not working. We can pretty quickly revert the snapshot and move to the previous version, which brings us to the next big benefits, which is to having versioning of our configuration, which is also great functionality. So for each of the snapshots, we can tie it to the specific release version of our application. And really, these are really, how to say, music for the ears,
Yes.
for the ears, for the people, for R&D guys. And of course, it's very good for auditing, so we can see what kind of changes. We can compare the changes of the different snapshots that we progressively developed with our solution. It's good to test for test and staging environment where we can ensure that the same configuration is used and nobody change anything in the specific values. So really helpful, and of course it's very simple to use. Very simple to use. So retention period of this needs to be set during the creation of the snapshot. I think the default period is 30 days, and but this for the standard SKU, and 7 days for free tier. Free doesn't support also VNet integration. So and again, this service is very cheap. So highly recommend to use it in the standard and within your VNet. Okay. Another very useful service is Azure Container App Jobs. So this is I think this is Azure Container Apps pop up first in Microsoft Build 2000, and this year Microsoft Build. I think we covered them. But additionally, so the great things was that this service can scale to 0. But additionally, they introduced this Azure Container App Jobs, which run serverless containers that perform some small tasks and that runs to completion of these tasks. So they
similar like a function, but in a more hosted.
I would say that these are more to in the middle, like it's really you still have pretty good amount of functionality, so it supports the
because it's event driven, so you know it's very similar to
talking about this. It's actually it's supported 3 different triggers. So it's as you see here, it could be manual trigger, it could be, as you said, event trigger, but also could be schedule trigger. And I would say the most popular and good use case, at least which I saw recently, is the ability to have self-hosted agents for running your Azure DevOps pipelines or your GitHub Actions in a way which allows you to don't maintain, for example, to have a virtual machine to maintain whatever, and Microsoft provided pretty detailed guide how to do that. There's 2 plans. One is consumption, the other is dedicated. So in the consumption plan, the biggest caveat which we face is that it requires WAS23 addressing space. So it may be challenging to be implemented in some of your environment, and dedicated one is pretty expensive. Let's say that way, even the lower one. So I would say the biggest downside for this is really this WAS23 VNet. But of course, you can have it centrally deployed and having different jobs for container jobs for your different application owners. You have some segregation. It has manage identity in preview already, so
that's a must.
That's a must, yeah, but it's still there's some limitations. Yet new services, but yeah, very, I would say very promising.
I wonder how it compares to how long a job can run versus a function, because that has always been a problem with.
Oh no, but the function you also have you can use app service plan where oh no, the function
is 5 minutes, and you can expand it, I think, to 30 or something.
They had limitation also in the CPUs, but here I think it's so here you can have 32 vCPUs, and
this will be a very expensive.
But yeah, and 256 gigabyte of memory, so you can have pretty. I'm not sure that you can run one job on this and consume all this, but yeah, it's
some
really
analysis or statistician.
I guess other services may be more suitable for this.
But it's an interesting offer.
Yeah, definitely. For self-hosted agent, it's like I'm sure that this will become a standard. Okay, so talking about containers, we have some new functionality in AKS. It's called vertical pod auto scaling. So this becomes GA. It's important to understand that this is very different to horizontal pod auto scaler. So in order to catch unknown load, you should use horizontal pod auto scaler. The main goal for vertical pod auto scaler is really it helps you by analyzing and adjust processors and memory resources, as you see here in the example, to right-size your application. This is based on past resource usage of your pods, and it will take care both from scaling it up or scaling it out, which in general helps to have more more balanced and aligned usage of the underlying hardware of the cluster resources in terms of CPU and memory. There's some limitations. So currently it's supporting a maximum of 1000 pods that can be part of autoscaler, virtual pod autoscaler of feature. This is per cluster basis. There's some, sometimes it can recommend the overall compute which is recommend could exceed the actual available on the cluster. So you have the ability to limit this range by hard coded it. So this is also configurable. And one of the other important limitation is that it does not support Windows containers,
which can be a downside for some.
I'm not sure it's a lot of people who are using Windows containers in general.
Only Microsoft.
No, I think it's only for those applications. Even Microsoft solutions are pretty.
SharePoint is using. They're doing this on the farms.
Containers.
Yeah, they've containerized this.
Nice stuff. And the final updates from our perspective, interesting updates is that Azure Update Manager is finally generally available, which actually retired the previous solution using automation account, Walk Analytics agent, Azure Monitor agent. So it's really relays only on Azure Virtual Machine agent for the Azure services, and Azure Connected Machine agents for managing the non-Azure virtual machines and Azure Arc enabled servers on the other clouds. As you see here in the picture, there's some option for some examples of covering Azure Cloud, Azure Arc. It really provides, this is a purely SaaS solution. So it really provides native experience with zero onboarding. So it's like a native built-in native functionality in Azure Compute. It's much easier to use. There's no, as I said, no dependency to Azure Automation or Vault Analytics. It's supporting Azure policies, so which is pretty mandatory, I would say. It's worked with Azure roles and identity, so you can have granular access and control at the resource level instead of access control at the level of Azure Automation, which was previously Automation Account or Vault Analytics Workspace. It's yeah, very, I would say, pretty good step in automate and make this, let's say, not very happy task of updating your virtual machines pretty easier. And Microsoft in the recent, I don't know, maybe a year, trying to really streamline the process of patching and maintaining the versions of their software components and OS products by having things like auto patching, hot patching. So yeah, this could be a good combination.
What I think it's worth noting here as well that they are also heavily pushing for the use of Azure Arc. They want to infiltrate the left on-premise servers that are within the organization. So I think for a lot of these new features that they're rolling out, they want to make sure that Azure Arc is supported there.
Yeah.
And they want to take over the whole management plane of the infrastructure to be solely in Azure and remove the necessity to do this on premise. This way, the strategy here is to move everyone. And one way to do this is to have a one unified plane of the management. So I think there is a real thought behind this. It's not random that they're doing this specific for Arc.
As we see in the Azure security section, there is a lot of confirmation of what you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let me talk for a second about the M365 updates. Like I said, I've purposely left out some of the AI updates for the other session that we're going to do soon about in our AI talks group. We will talk more about Copilot and all the new features that came in the last 3 months. A lot of it is already in GA and Bing Chat Enterprise and the stuff that was recently announced, as well as the different levels of integration with Azure OpenAI. So I picked out some updates that are more in line with kind of the other areas in M365 and the Power Platform. And the first one, which I think is the most interesting of all, and that has happened in the last 3 months, is the announcement of the multi-tenant organizations, which is something that was, I would say that they had different areas that they addressed with different products, like maybe some of you have heard about ADSS, which is a service that allows you to sync identities between 2 tenants that runs on a hosted sort of a hosted service within Microsoft. It has been around for a year or so, and it's really useful for kind of the bigger organizations when you do M&As and you acquire a company and you want to have this initial broad in of users so they can use services across the different tenants. So this has been there for a while, but they're pushing a step further by making it much more scalable, because this allows you to have multiple tenants synced up to, let's say, the core company or the company that acquired the others, or if it's a merger, depending on how things are from a business perspective. But so what they're really doing is they are allowing the organizations to sync the identities of each tenant to the other. And depending on what types they are, because now we can have internal and external members as well as guests. This really shines in the scenario where we have to share information out with things like SharePoint teams, where we're really relying on that identity to be member. So everything can work the right way, because guest identities have a lot of limitations when they're consuming content from this external sharing scenarios. So what they've introduced here is a good way to manage Azure B2B users. There's still some limitations that that are initial, I guess, because this is a brand new service, obviously. Like the sheer number of tenants that can be added in this group, where you have an owner and a member tenant, and also the number of users that are supported within each organization. It's I will carefully follow the progress on this one, because personally I've been involved in a lot of these M&A situations where this is going to be useful. Right now, I don't see it as a good stepping stone for a migration. I still feel that this will be a necessary step for a migration scenario where you're trying to combine tenants. But when you want to have a long-lasting coexistence for any reason, let's assume that you have different areas of business that cannot be combined in one tenant, or you have different limitations, like one company uses multi-geo, the other doesn't. This sort of scenarios would be different. But for a coexistence, especially with the burden, if you have more than, let's say, 100,000 guest counts in your directory, it can be a lifesaver for sure. So it's going to be something that we're going to be looking into more. Also, the new Teams client is the first to leverage this, because right now, Teams is able to differentiate the different users, internal and external, and show them correctly. You do cross directory searches in Teams, and you can find the right users without having to type their full email address. Everybody who has done that knows how much of a pain this is to look for guest users, or if you have access to another tenant, depending on the case. So it's useful. We'll see just how it works, what kind of limitations will show up. I'm still not convinced that this will work evenly across all of the different, sub-services like Planner and Forms and others. I think they will be concentrating their efforts initially to make sure that SharePoint, Exchange, and Teams are the systems who fully support it.
I guess it will be also very helpful for organization which decided to go wild and have separation in their environment in terms of tenant. So for there's depth to having separate tenants. So it will at least a bit simplify the.
We previously had announcements and changes in the service called information barriers, which is basically if you have a gigantic tenant in different businesses, you can isolate the different areas, so there's no connection between them. But in this case, we want to bring in disjointed organizations so they can work seamlessly together, because the collaboration, when it's broken, when users cannot find each other, they cannot share information out very easily. They cannot be owners of each other's sites. These sort of things that can be frustrating, especially for the people who don't understand the technical limitations. They just want things to work. So this is the reason why they're coming up with this solution. Okay. Next one is I'm sorry. I'm switched the titles on this one. Apologies. So this is for the new Teams client. I just noticed the new Teams client, which is something that I've been using for the last, what is it? I don't know, 5 months ever since it was in preview. It was very rough initially. I mean, it was barely working in meetings. The performance was terrible. So it took about 2 or 3 months for things to kind of iron out and get where we are currently. Now, the current version of the Teams client is 2.1 that's being rolled out. I mean, this is sort of the major version. The minor versions they have a different convention of their naming it. But what I can tell you that the being able to switch multiple tenants and being logged with multiple accounts in the same client is really a game changer for a lot of us, because we're at the point where we are being invited into so many different organizations, and it's been such a difficult task to manage this, because back in the day we would open up a web version of Teams and a desktop version of Teams, and you'll be logged in with two, and you have to switch back and forth. If you receive a message in the other tenant or the other account, you don't get it. It's been a mess, especially, like I said, if you have multiple accounts that you need to be logged into. It's been terrible as an experience. I mean, it was basically not working. But with this, I find it's just this alone, it's worth to make the switch to the new client. Also, Microsoft has completely reshaped how the client has been developed in terms of the backend. I think we discussed this back in March when they rolled out the announcement and the new architecture, and what the differences are. But I don't find it particularly more performant in terms of blazingly fast compared to the previous one. I have to admit, it is slightly faster on my machine at least, but it does seem to be more responsive when you're clicking through different menus, especially if you open up if you use Teams applications. This is something that I've noticed it works better compared to the previous one. And there's some other, more of a backend optimizations on how the way that's being deployed, how notifications are being delivered. They're using a lot of open source components. They switched away from the Electron framework to the new one. So by the way, there's a good video from from Build or the previous conference, where they kind of deep dive into how the client has been conceived and what they've changed. So I like it really much. I would encourage everybody to switch if their organization has allowed them this in their update policy. It's definitely something that has been changed compared to the previous ones.
I just recently got the new Teams for Mac, and definitely simplify a lot of my day-to-day work and the need of having multiple clients. And that's everything at the beginning. It has some limitation, but at the end,
absolutely,
it takes some time.
And the Mac versions are always lacking behind.
Yeah,
similar like the Android versions of Teams. They've been behind on the development for these, but
which makes sense at the end. But I'm very happy that I finally got.
Back in the day, we wouldn't have a Mac version of these things.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the town hall feature. So what they've done, they basically upgraded the live events functionality to something they rebranded as town halls. With the new version of the Teams client, they are able to do more on that front. So they're going to be remodernizing a lot of the Teams functionality based on that. And the live events has been upgraded to town halls. And they will, a lot of the updates are more related to how many people can join a town hall. There's some differences in the way you would produce the content because professionally held town halls or live events would require additional capturing equipment or an SDN and things like that. That would make the experience much better. Unfortunately, from what I can see, that a lot of the really meaningful stuff and the kind of the biggest benefits have been moved over to the new Teams premium license, which is a shame because historically Teams has always been sort of a free application, and now with the announcement of premium, I think the start of this year was it? They are gonna be they will try to move this a lot of the kind of the cutting edge stuff over to the premium license, and not a lot of organizations are prepared to pay for it, especially in this economic uncertainty currently. So we'll see. I think they will eventually bundle this up to another SKU like E7, E9, or whatever they want to call it, and give it off there. But it is what it is. We're just going to see. It also the same goes for the called the Copilot experience. Right, moving on to the Power Platform, and PVA, for the people who don't know, stands for Power Virtual Agents, which is the kind of the bot functionality of the Power Platform. And it's something that has always been a bit of an untapped potential in the use of the Power Platform. A lot of when you're starting out using it, especially if it's something, if it's a new environment, you would start with Power BI or Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents requires more setup, more thought out process before you can roll it out. And it's been something that could have been a lot useful before AI. I think with AI, things have changed a lot for the self-service kind of bot capabilities. I think PVA will be shaped up by the AI capabilities that Microsoft is introducing, because the way it worked up to this point maybe would not be that relevant, in the current environment. So what they're doing now is they're enabling the OpenAI integration, which basically allows you to ingest different data sources like sites and files, and provide that back as a capability for PVAs to respond to people outside of the topics that are being created. We're currently testing this out. It's somewhat buggy, like I said in the presentation. It's somewhat buggy in terms of the experience, and we don't particularly see right now. We don't see the strategy how this exactly is going to be licensed, because this is going to be important. Typically, the Power Virtual Agents in its full capacity would be a separate license on the tenant level. And they can be fairly expensive if you're not leveraging them wisely. I mean, if you're not making sure that the PVAs are actually used, I would go against deploying them, because it doesn't make sense to pay for that. If you're using this with Teams, it's a bit different, because there's certain capacity and free tier that you can use with your Teams license. So it makes sense for that to be analyzed first before you go and spend a lot of money on PVA on its licensing. But so far, it is working. I think we announced this from Build. They have a new version of PVAs 2.2, which has been reshaped, and it's working a lot differently from the previous one. So some of the bots need to be recreated to leverage this, but it's going to be, we'll keep you posted on how this develops, because it's an interesting way of using AI, especially if you want to create a meaningful front end that's available through Teams, because Teams is a great way to consume chatbots compared to static web pages or web pages. I think it's it's a much more integrated experience, like compared to, let's say, using ChatGPT type of interface. Right. The next one is automatic testing of PDA bots. For some of the people on the call, this would be useful because it's a way to it's basically the Microsoft provided a tool where you can load test and test out kind of the way the bot has been created. It will test the different topics. It will be we'll go through all of the conversation. It will come up with some results, how long things take for this to play out. It does require Dataverse to where it will store the different questions, but I think it's simple enough to deploy. It's free. It's on I think it's on a GitHub page. So it's a meaningful, if you're building up a bot and you have a lot of topics and you want to test out the different scenarios and how how the bot actually works, this is a good way to automate the testing. And it could also, Microsoft stated this can also be part of if you're deploying the Power Platform through Azure DevOps, you can also implement it as a static test during the deployment phase. So you don't roll out the bot before you actually make sure that it works.
Very nice.
And the last one on the Power Platform side is the Power Automate integration with App Insights. App Insights is also integrated with Dynamics, but when we started the group, we figured that there's just too many buckets that we have to take care of in terms of the updates, and we decided to leave out Dynamics for now. And it's not really something that we are
working with
proficient at and understand that great. But just to mention, since the Power Platform is basically part of Dynamics, more or less, it also supports the Dynamics 365. And what I found useful here is that if you've been working with the Power Platform, you know that it lacks a certain level of details when you're troubleshooting stuff, when you're exporting information from why something has broke, and this metadata that you get in Azure, if you compare this to an app service or an application that's built natively in Azure, you have a ton of tools that you can integrate and get a lot of information back, especially during the testing phase and the development phase. So what they did is that they've enabled the App Insights with an App Insights instance. You can hook this up to a Power Automate flow, and within you can capture metrics about the runs, the triggers, the actions that go into a couple of tables, and you can use that as the basis of, especially if you have very complicated flows with a lot of actions that wait on each other. They query different services that are outside of the Power Platform, like databases. You want to know how this results in the user experience, and this is a good way to track this. So App Insights is a welcomed integration for sure.
That would be very interesting to see what kind of data you can see and what kind of functionality they integrated it in App Insight, because it's a very powerful service, provides a lot of functionality, and I think multiple times we discussed that is heavily underestimated.
Yeah.
I guess at some point it would be worth it to have a session for it specifically.
I saw a lot of admins and even architects, they tend to leverage Power Automate for a lot of this stuff because it's very easy to get into compared to Logic Apps, which is, it's Big Brother basically. But the Power Platform has gone a long way since it started, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and it's been adopted widely, and it's a big business at this point.
Okay, moving to the security part. I guess most of you are aware of this major change in the branding of Azure AD. So Microsoft decided to, as you know, in multiple of their services, they decided to remove the actual connection with, let's say, Azure itself, because, as you know, Azure AD, it's been like a industry standard identity provider, because even organizations which are not using Azure, they've been using Azure AD Quad, and this is how to say, pretty reasonable move to remove actually this tied connection in the majority of their services. So as you see in the picture, like it's almost everything related to Azure AD change. However, keep in mind that there's still some services which keep their Azure AD name. So, for example, Azure AD B2C, it does not become Microsoft Entra B2C. And the other important thing is that there is no impact in any way to the actual environment and functionality of Microsoft Entra.
I think we hate Microsoft for this, because this makes our job unnecessarily tougher, because we have to, every time there's a marketing announcement like this one, back, I think last year we had the same for Purview. They rebranded 15 things in the compliance center. Now it's Purview something. Purview.
Same with the security, but at the end it's
And I don't particularly like the name. I read the reason for it, but
the thing is that you are completely right, but this is more from our standpoint, and
yeah, of course.
The problem is that the stakeholders who take the, let's say, the decision, like C-level guys, they really, when they heard Azure, they know that this is Azure. So let's say it's reasonable.
If you remember, so long ago, it was Azure was called the Windows. It was Windows Azure, but before that, it had a different name. And when it became Azure, and everybody was like, "Why? Why did you choose this name?" It seemed very odd at the time when they were rebranding stuff. So I guess we'll get used to this,
of course,
as well. But it's just.
I also think that would be
make it
pretty. Moving to the Microsoft Defender for Cloud updates. As mentioned earlier in the code, there's a lot of updates going on in Microsoft Defender suite. Again, name changes, rebranding, retiring of plans, adding new plans, changing functionalities. Of course, we are we like always the new functionality added to the services. So the main driver for this is for sure for good, for in order to provide better services. One of these new addition is actually this. It's recent pop up from in preview, public preview. So we have right now in Microsoft Defender for Cloud data security dashboard, where we can have centralized summary of our cloud data estate, that where we can identify the location of data, of the sensitive data. So right now we can discover our more critical data locations, and we have again some central place we can track this. So in this screen here, which is actually the data security overview section, we can see again our cloud data is there, but different clouds are supported. And let's see if, as you see on top of this, we have Azure subscription, AWS account, GCP projects. So again, this is another move from Microsoft, where they would like to consolidate all the to escape from this cloud boundary. They covered managed databases. We'll see in one of the other announcement is actually this, but they also have hosted databases based on infrastructure as a services. We can have some information about how this is covered, if it's covered by, let's say, Defender Cloud Security Posture Management, or Defender for Storage, or Defender for Databases. And there's some, as you see, there's some partially covered statuses where some of these components are missing. We have sensitive resources which are compliant, and we also have sensitive resources which require some attention. There's also an option, a closer look, which provides more detailed view into the sensitive data with the organization. So there's very good feature is internet exposed data resources. So we have pretty, as you see here, we have let's say pretty good summary of how much of the different type of resources, so like storage accounts, managed databases are internet exposed. As you know, in this security best practices recommendation, you should always try to use private endpoints for all of your services. Microsoft is trying to do their best in order to provide the functionality of integration with the network of the majority of all kinds of services that they have. So usually you should try to not having unpurposely public internet exposed data resources. But in general, very good dashboard, which I guess it will be adopted pretty fast.
And also this aligns with what I said on the update management, that they want to take over the kind of the management plane for security as well.
Especially for security.
Yeah, they want to integrate all of they allow you to integrate, but they want you to use Azure as your one-stop place to manage your resources.
That's the thing with identity as well. As we discussed, Azure AD was like the main identity provider since I don't know, in the past 10 years. At the beginning, Okta was a little bit ahead, but this time is over. And recently we had a project where we implementing things like conditional access, just-in-time VMs, PIM for other clouds, not for Azure.
Yeah.
So for example, I was very surprised that just-in-time VM access was already released for AWS EC2 instances. So it's really, as I said, especially in the security field, they really step further with Microsoft Defender Suite. And as we always discussed, they are leader in the security field, even that
it's not acknowledged yet.
It's not acknowledged yet, and some people have some concerns about this stuff. But yeah. Another good feature is malware scanning in Microsoft Defender for Storage. I think we implemented the preview of this. I'm trying to get you, but it was like half a year ago. Immediately after the release, we already start implementing it on pretty large storage accounts. Yeah, it was like 30 terabyte storage accounts. And actually this brought a lot of happiness to the project owner because it's actually ticking pretty important checkbox of having a robust solution for their object storage. And there were, I don't recall the all details. There were some delays. Actually, the scanning was happening, I think, 1 per day or something. I don't want to, but yeah, I think this become GA, so that's why we have it here. But yeah, it's definitely very cheap and must-have solution, I would say. $15 per gigabyte of data is not something expensive at all. So this price is based on ingested data, so do not pay this for each scan. keep in mind. And you know, the malware is it could be everywhere. That's one of the, we'll see in the next slides. And this is one of the reasons why we're not having Microsoft Defender for Cloud session, because there's some move to agentless scanning, especially for malware stuff, which I don't know, maybe nobody knows how it's working. I don't know. So still waiting to understand better of that, but really Microsoft is doing their best to remove the agents from the and easy the onboarding of their services. So very good feature. Highly recommended to try it. We have again one good addition to the previous what we previously discussed. Actually, this Microsoft Defender for Cloud sensitive data discovery for platform as a service databases is just pop up in preview. So right now we have this functionality available. The good thing, not only for Azure SQL databases, but also for AWS RDS instances of any type. So on top of the already the object storage resources like Azure Blob, AWS 3 buckets, and GCP storage buckets, we now have also the managed instances platform as a service databases as part of this very powerful sensitive data discovery, which I guess it could be 1 year topic each month. One topic, but yeah, this morning I saw the pretty interesting Gartner analysis about data discovery and classification, and it looks like that they believe that it will hit soon the plateau. So maybe this stuff would be pretty offloaded to the AI, and which perfectly makes sense. But it's still, we have a pretty good covering of what we have here. The example is showing the attack path. So keep in mind that this discovery is running once per day. I think it's the same for the storage, Microsoft Defender for storage, for object storage. So it's malware, it's each 24 hours. So if you enable it, you shall wait a bit. And our final update for today is pretty connected to what we discussed so far. We got additional support for cloud security posture management of Defender for Cloud for GCP. So right now we can, the main features are that we can have a look at the attack path analysis to understand potential routes attackers may take for our GCP environment. We can use the Cloud Security Explorer, where we proactively can identify the security risk by running some queries on the security graph. We have agentless scanning for GCP as well, so we can scan servers and identify secrets and vulnerability without installing agent. You know how this is happened. Usually it's taking snapshots and having a look at these snapshots. And yeah, that's about it. As you see, big a lot of updates, even for summer periods. We weren't able to cover all of them.
Yeah.
We just covered the updates which we are more we already tried some of this stuff, and for the others which looks good to us. So it would be great if you can share your point of view. If you have any questions, if you'd like to share your experience with these services, do you plan to use them? You can type in the chat, I think. Hope that you like the session. Next session, again, it would be for updates, because we would like to remind you that next month is Microsoft Ignite. So we expect a lot of updates.
They already started happening, but
yeah,
the majority of them would be on the date probably.
there will be more on the AI field, but we're sure that other areas will be covered as well. So at the end of the next month, you can expect Microsoft Ignite edition of Cloud Talks. And also this month, we plan to hold our second AI talk session where we will cover the majority of AI updates. And
if it's possible at all.
Okay, and also really important, there Nikki Panchev will show a demo for one of his recent project. So promise to be interesting.
Yeah,
as well.
The developments that are so rapid that it's hard to keep up, even just from an infrastructure perspective, like we have mostly on the AI front. It's hard to be on top of all the changes, but it's exciting. I think it's even now we're seeing it has opened up a lot of new potential in different fields. So it's going to be interesting, and that's why we decided to spin this up to another group, because it kind of deserves our full attention compared to just doing the kind of the Microsoft Cloud updates.
Okay. Thank you. Happy to have you here, and stay tuned for our next session.
See you next time. Thank you.
Okay, bye.